Ready?
Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Me. Hello, how are you doing on this gray day? Speaking of day, it's a Thursday, and it's the 6th of April. Guys, there used to be days, because I've been doing this kind of thing for 30 years, when I would just be in a panic driving to the studio because I'd gone through 4 or 5 newspapers, couldn't find a thing to talk about. And back then, I didn't have 1 measly hour to fill. I had 3. There were days when I showed up with 3 blank hours staring at me and started the show and not a clue of what I was going to do. The amazing thing is that somehow, I guess it's survival instinct takes over. So you start talking, and before you know it, a show unravels. Or unravels doesn't seem like the right word. A show is born. And the funny thing is, often the days when I felt I had nothing turned into some of the better shows. I say that because these days I have the opposite problem. I wake up in the morning and I start to vaguely remember all the stuff that was breaking when I went to bed. And then I think, oh my God. And then I start with the newspapers. And it's too much. There's no way. And I say that there's no way for media to keep up. There's no way for a little schmo like me to keep up. There's no way for the average Joe who's just trying to stay on top of news. And God bless you, average Joe, if you're trying to do that. Because a lot of people are just totally tuned out, which is why they're easy pickings for demagogues. But for those of us who are paying attention, I don't know. Maybe they should put Xanax in the Highland Park Reservoir or something. Wouldn't be a bad idea. We could all sort of relax just a little bit. Man. So everywhere I look, I keep seeing the word nuclear, and or as our 43rd president would say, what did he say? Nuclear? Nuclear, right. Anyway, we got the nuclear option about to apparently happen today because the Senate is destroying itself in front of our eyes. That's wonderful. And you have nuclear being talked about because the Chinese president is coming to this country to meet with our president today at our president's lovely resort. Maybe you would like to become a member. And they are going to be meeting for 2 days. And quite clearly, one of the subjects on their agenda will be the ongoing nuclear threat from North Korea. Okay, I'm just asking. You got these 2 guys. They're both heading down there for that meeting now. The 2 biggest, baddest countries in the world. That's who they represent. The United States of America, a great giant, probably in decline, obviously, given who's showing up to represent us. Excuse me. And China, huge, monolithic nation on the rise. And which president do you think is going to be more prepared? Which president do you think actually has an understanding of the issues that will be discussed? Which president do you think has done his homework? Which president is going to be able to adequately, I won't even raise the bar very high, adequately represent the interests of his nation? Now, if your answer to any of those is our president, you're stark, raving, delusional. This is big stuff. The last maybe 24, 36 hours have brought home the danger of electing an incurious nitwit to the highest office in the land, maybe even the world, if you want to make things even more dire. The United States is now facing huge foreign policy crises. In how many? I mean, what do we got going now? We got North Korea, which is no laughing matter, I assure you. We have Syria, which God knows is no laughing matter. These intractable issues that our last president struggled with. And this president blithely informed all of us prior to his election that not to worry, taking care of it all. Gonna get rid of those North Korean nukes. Trust me, believe me, remember? Trust me, believe me. And Syria? Well, Syria, Obama messed that up, so we're just not going to get involved in these entangling. There's no reason. The American people are sick and tired of being drawn in to these parts of the world. Let them deal with their own crap. Well, our president has informed us that his view of Syria has changed overnight. He saw those pictures. That did it. Now we have no idea what his policy is. You know why we have no idea what his policy on Syria is? Right. He has no idea what his policy on Syria is. Do you know why we have no idea what possibly he's thinking of doing to forestall North Korea's burgeoning threat to not only Asia, but obviously to our West Coast? Do you have any idea what that plan is? I don't either. And why would that be? I suspect because he doesn't have a plan. He has no foreign policy that goes beyond the bumper sticker rhetoric of his campaign. And because he has sidelined the entire State Department, not to mention the guy who leads the State Department, which would be the Secretary of State, he has sidelined them, so they're not major players. So we don't even have, and he hasn't even filled half the positions. So the world is going bonkers, and the bad guys are seeing this vacuum created by the chaos president that the United States so helpfully elected. The world is, nobody knows where we stand. You know, if we were Botswana, maybe that's okay. But we ain't. We're the United States of America. And people rely all over the world on us having a clear posture. Whether you agree with it or not, at least having one. We don't have anything. This is the most appalling, humiliating, dangerous, Someday we should just do the entire hour doing adjectives to describe where we are and this administration. We could go forever. You don't know where to start. Now, the guy who was largely judged to be the puppeteer to our nitwit president, stunningly, has lost a big round in the White House backstabbing political wars going on there. And Steve Bannon petulantly threatened to quit. I quit! You can't take my seat away on the Principals Committee of the National Security Agency. No, counsel, whatever. But they did. Which shows that the establishment Republicans in the White House are starting to win some wars. That actually might be good. So Bannon has been removed from a committee he never should have been on. This is clearly an indicator that he doesn't have quite the power that was ascribed to him, or at least that he used to have. He came up, these guys are such wondrous liars. So to cover up his humiliation at being dropped from his security post, Bannon came up with a great excuse. He said that he had been put on the council for the purpose only of babysitting the president's first choice to head his National Security Council, which would be, the guy who's soon to be wearing prison pinstripes, and that would be General Flynn. So Bannon manages to say, I was only there for a short period. I was there to make sure Flynn towed the line and did the right stuff. And, he disappeared, and there I still was. And then McMaster came in, and, really, McMaster, he doesn't need a babysitter, so I'm going. But on the way out, he also slandered, as did the president yesterday, the woman who held that position in the Obama White House, Susan Rice. And here, the statement that Bannon released to save his face and to slander a woman who served this country well, he said this: Susan Rice operationalized the NSC during the last administration. I was put there with General Flynn to ensure that it was de-operationalized. General McMaster has returned the NSC to its proper function. Word salad. First of all, what the hell does operationalized and de-operationalized even mean? Does anyone know? No, nobody knows. Did Susan Rice do that? Whatever it is? No. She did her job well. And the fact that she did her job, these Republicans are now trying to turn into a crime. And the president, God damn, the president actually said that she should perhaps be charged with a crime for seeing reports coming across her desk as the National Security Advisor to the president. And she sees this stuff about, on our intercepts of Russian people we keep an eye on, we keep getting an awful lot of redacted names that have been replaced and said by where she's just told it's an American. So the Russians said this American, blah, 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 and the Russians talked to that American, blah, blah, blah. And within the context of some of what she was seeing, she said, Guys, I need to know the identities of these Americans. Who are we talking about here? That is a perfectly legitimate, reasonable, no problem kind of a thing that any national security advisor would ask. And they're trying to say it was criminal activity. What happens when the Trump administration runs out of black people to blame? Huh? I mean, if it ain't Obama, then it's Susan Rice. Strangely, they're both, well, they're not white people, so they're not quite Americans, I guess. They're suspect in general. As I said, one can't overstate how much there is to pay attention to. I want to say that what I absolutely feel for certain is that the wheels are coming off the clown car. Unfortunately, as I think I said yesterday, to actually establish culpability, criminality, to connect all those dots that the FBI is, I am sure, working at 24/7 now. And by the way, Comey has put additional people and resources into that investigation. But there's so many threads, so much smoke, as we say. There is no doubt there's fire. But you can't go in with that kind of circumstantial stuff. You need to connect them. You need to do that, and that's going to take time. So even if the wheels fall off the clown car that is our president and his administration, it could well be they will remain in power until they can be forcibly evicted by the law. What happens in the interim, one can only guess. Phone number here if anyone cares to comment, 412-200-5686, 200-5686. I was thinking I have to have a talk with my son and just say to him that I am so sorry that he has inherited a country that could well come apart in his lifetime. And that I just want him to be aware, really aware, of where he might be heading. A lot of us, we might have thought the place needed to be cleaned up, needed a correction of where we were heading, this kind of thing. But there was never this sense that that structure that those colonial geniuses put into place in the 18th century, there was, at least in my mind, there was never any doubt that those would hold us, keep us intact. And I don't have that sense at all anymore. I really don't. Chuck writes, at this point, I'm thinking the Democrats should find 8 of their own senators and vote for Gorsuch just to prevent the Republicans from changing the Senate rules and going nuclear. It's a fair point. I mean, if it's going to happen, Gorsuch is going to be on the court. But the Democrats could save. I mean, if what the Democrats are doing today is bound to fail, and they know it, and their failure will come about because the Republicans will push that nuclear button. If you're a Democrat and you know that that will be the consequence, it's a fair point. Because once they do this, you will never see again any chance that a minority party will have any power at all. Now, right now, that minority party is the Democratic Party. But soon enough, it could well be the Republican Party. So they're all cutting off their noses to spite their faces. I don't know, but that's Anyway, back to Chuck. I'm sorry, Chuck. Your first sentence set me off on a reverie. If Gorsuch, Chuck writes, is going to be confirmed anyway, maybe the Democrats should try and strike a deal where they trade 8 Democratic votes for something else. Perhaps net neutrality would be a fair trade. I don't know. It's a pretty big thing that the Democrats are giving up. Gorsuch is a young, seemingly healthy man who could well serve on that court for 40 years. Chuck says the Democrats need to find opportunity and pick their battles. Gorsuch is not a battle they can win. This is true. And that's the point. So if they can't win it, why force the Republicans? Because we know what they're going to do to go nuclear. And the Republicans say, we wouldn't have done it. You made us do it. So the finger pointing keeps going. And they, Jesus, God, I don't know. What a mess. Boy, you guys got a lot to say. Joe Ellen. Huffington Post is reporting that Nunes is stepping aside from the Russian probe. Well, that's neat. Yeah, he's recusing himself. Milton sent me something, too. Thank you, guys. In a statement, Nunes said, this is from the Washington Post, that he would temporarily step aside as head of the House Intelligence Committee's ongoing investigation into Russian involvement in the election. He said in a statement that he decided to recuse himself after several left-wing activist groups filed complaints with the Office of Congressional Ethics. He said those charges are entirely false and politically motivated. Which, of course, because they're entirely false, is why he's stepping aside. You know, these guys are liars, but they're bad liars. Oi, I got 3 callers on the line. 3 gentlemen callers. Who's first? Clarence. Hey. How you doing, Clarence?
Yay, I'm glad I'm first.
Yeah, you're first. But there's
Yeah,
2 guys behind you. I can see that.
I'll make it quick.
Okay, that mono thing's still going on. Shit. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have mono. You have to kiss people to get mono, right?
No,
But anyway,
but we have this audio problem, and when we take a call, you guys end up on we're in stereo, and then all of a sudden I'm only getting you in my left ear. You ain't in my right ear. I'm telling you now, and the quality of the sound is different. So, guys, we know, and the engineer failed to fix it. Anyway, yeah.
interesting that I'm in your left ear. But
I
But my original call was going to be about apologizing to your son about the future. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
When I get a chance to talk to the kids, I say, yeah, we spoiled brat baby boomers ruined it for you. you got a lot of work to do to try to fix it. Pay attention. Sorry, when all this shit hits the fan, we'll be dead. But have a nice day.
Yeah, it's we messed it up.
But then you brought up the nuclear option, and the Democrats should do this. And my spin has always been, no, they shouldn't. They should let the Republicans go nuclear, because the bumper sticker is they will ruin this country to get their way. They ruined it with Trump. They will deal with the Russians. They will do anything to get their way. They will sacrifice the country to get their way.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah. Literally, they'll.
But why put them in the position where they then are willing to do that and ruin the Senate?
Yeah, it ruined the Senate. But the trick is that they need that bumper sticker. They need that bumper sticker for the next few elections to try to get them out of power. Because, you need the Senate and the Congress back at least. The Senate and the House, if Trump lasts till 2018.
Right.
And the bumper sticker, the thing is, they will ruin the country to get their way. Then they have that thing. Look what they
Okay,
did.
so you're saying
well,
let them hang themselves.
Yeah, let them hang themselves.
Okay.
Stop trying to save them. That's always been a big mistake of the Democrats. Okay, you whining bastards, we'll do this for you.
Yeah.
Okay, you're happy now.
Yeah. Well, maybe. So that's the other argument. Let them go for it, so that then we've got a extraordinarily strong case and bumper sticker material to knock them out of power in the Senate, at least. It's a good
nobody
point.
goes that deep. It's like, we got to save the Senate. Nobody goes that deep.
No.
Very few people go that deep. It's like they care more about themselves than their country and you and your kids and your future, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And having the power.
Okay.
So yeah.
Hey, thanks, Clarence. Normally I'd talk more, but I got other people on the line.
Two callers, man. I'm actually happy for you.
I am too.
Ooh, a line. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye. I think Mike in D.C. is next. No? Who's next? Joe. Joe, go ahead, please. Joe?
How you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Lynn, this with Iran and Korea, Syria, I just don't, call me crazy, but for decades, Russia, China, we got Pakistan, had how many missiles? And now we're worried about, I say BFD, one friggin' missile that might have a nuke on it, or, we have that THAAD to take care of it, that air defense system. We could shoot it down, or we could take out North Korea. I don't understand you got some options, you do them. What I fear is they're going to make the people get scared and grow into a war. But we have options. But we had the Cold War with all those missiles pointed at us, and we didn't.
Well,
get this.
Well, one of the reasons in the Cold War was we all had the sense that, to push the button was to not only destroy your enemy, but to destroy yourself, because you knew that one person pushes the button, it's over. That was with Russia and the U.S. That wouldn't be the case with a North Korea, for instance. And the thing is they've got a guy at the helm that is as unbalanced as the guy we've got at the helm. And when you've got unbalanced guys sitting on that nuclear arsenal, it's frightening. And it's dangerous. It is dangerous.
You shoot it down?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe
Do you
have to
have
take
you
out the
do
whole
you
country.
know?
You have to take out the whole country.
Oh, well.
I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Well, it's easy for you to say that, but taking out the whole country when they share borders
well, I'm just
with
saying, I know you got South Korea, but what are you going to do?
I don't know. That's why you elect serious
take 'em out.
people, serious, studious, thoughtful people to the job of the presidency, not a fucking carnival barker.
Well, you're right there.
And the carnival barker's starting to see. He is so in over his head.
Yeah.
He's got, I don't know. He's lucky he's not self-aware. Because if he were self-aware, he'd probably kill himself.
In Syria, they cherry-picked these kids getting killed, which is terrible. I understand that. But we got all kind of places around the world that are like that. But we don't worry about them. But all of a sudden now this is going to be, we might go to war because of it. This goes on all over the world, stuff like, now I know it's gas. It's a little different situation. But it's that bullshit of talking to people that we got to do this, we're protecting you. I don't buy it.
Okay.
I don't buy it at all.
All right, Joe.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
I think Joe speaks for an awful lot of Americans, and as are the Americans that Donald Trump was speaking to. Actually, he spoke out of both sides of his mouth as usual. He was speaking to the people who didn't want to, why should we go to war to do anything, who made us the cop of the world? And then on the other hand, he would say, I'm going to go in there. We're going to, like, bomb them. We're going to, we're going to bomb their families. We're going to this and that. So, as usual, he has no policy. Mike in D.C. Hi.
Hey, Lynn, it's dejected in D.C.
Dejected
so
in
I called
D.C.
my senators. Yeah.
Okay.
I called my senators and emailed both of them that if they vote for Gorsuch, I will never vote for them again.
Okay.
And nor will I give them money, and nor will I knock on doors for them. And here's the reason why. Say they don't do the nuclear option this time. Those man babies still have the nuclear option, and they'll just do it the next time. You don't argue with a child who has a candle and a hand of gasoline saying, come on, don't light the house on fire. If you can't rip it from them, then they're going to have to see what that is. You don't argue with someone who is willing to blow up your house. And they are.
Okay.
They're man babies.
Yeah.
And pretending that they're not going to hold that gasoline and candle in the future if we play nice is delusional. Clarence is exactly right. Democrats are delusional. We think we can bargain our way out of this, or worse, rationalize our way out of this. We aren't dealing with rational people. We cannot act rationally anymore.
Well said. Well said. I mean, for
and
your
this has nothing to do with Gorsuch. This has to do with Garland. They blew up the house then.
Yeah. They blew it up then. Right. They threw the rules out
there.
That
man.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
And turtlenecks.
Well, I see why you're dejected. I do.
I know. I keep trying to think of a better acronym.
No,
it's fine. Adjective.
Dejected takes it in. It sure as hell does. I mean, you could, as I said, we could do an entire show just doing adjectives to describe.
We should.
Yeah. Okay.
Next Tuesday, everybody call in with adjectives, or next Wednesday.
It'll be Wednesday.
Call in with adjectives.
Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
Hey, I got another idea for a show for you.
Okay.
So, someone yesterday said how lovely Celine's voice is.
Yes.
And it is. Hello, caller. Anyway, with whom am I speaking? That's what she says when you call.
Well, one of the things she has to whisper because we're in the same room. She doesn't. So then she gets immediately that whispery quality. Hello, caller. Let me tell you, when the guy told her yesterday that she had a nice voice and we could talk after the show, she said, man, nobody ever told me I had a guy's voice before. So maybe you don't know the real Celine is all I'm saying. But what was your idea anyway?
Somebody sounds jealous.
Okay, so what's the...
So the best show, I think, in this iteration of your show, it was when Celine came on and talked about Cuba. Why don't you have her speak once a month, every 2 weeks, and sit next to the chair and talk to a real live young person? Because I don't know how old most of your callers are, but I'm well above 50. So maybe since you're at Point Park now and there are journalism people around, that you could entertain having someone under 50 and interview them about their experience with journalism and how much different it is from yours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Celine's sitting right there.
Yeah, right. And I don't know if she's representative of young people, but
politics are pretty radical.
Her politics are so far to the left of mine, it's a joke. Especially on, feminism
Well, we'll
stuff.
provide her with a safe space for afterward, and still, you can interview her.
All right. Not a bad idea.
Or other students, or professors of journalism. You know what I mean? Because, we got to pass this baton sometime, and I think we should start practicing now.
Okay. Not a bad idea there, Mike. I mean, dejected. Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
God, you upset me by saying he was over 50 because some reason his voice sounds young. Mm-hmm. Perennially young. Yeah. Celine thought you were young too. Younger. Okay, just some other little tidbits I'm just dropping in here in the course of all of this nuclear stuff. The Homeland Security had this another one of the generals, Kelly, told Congress yesterday that, hey, we ain't going to be building some wall all the way across. No, as a matter of fact, he said, we'll be building fences. Is a fence a wall? A fence, I get a sense of, is, not quite what a wall is. He said, we're going to focus on building additional fencing where it is most feasible. He said, there ain't going to be no wall from sea to shining sea, I think was his quote. And that absolutely is counter to everything that Donald Trump promised all his credulous, gullible voters. So there you have it. There ain't going to be a wall, guys. Everything he said, turn it upside down, and that's what you're going to get. Also, the effort on the part of Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, our white nationalist, racist, xenophobic, unbelievable blast from the past, who's now our Attorney General. You saw that the other day he said, all those deals that the Justice Department made with police departments to, give them oversight. They did that here in Pittsburgh not too long ago. Pittsburgh police were under what's called a consent decree. And you stay under that thing till you get your house in order. And given all the troubles we've been having in urban areas, a lot of cities, Cleveland is right now, Baltimore is just finishing up what will be their consent decree. And Sessions told everybody to put all this stuff on hold. He wants to come in and look at it and make sure it's not hurting the police morale, which is to say he's going to get rid of all this stuff. The good news is, in Baltimore, there was immediate pushback from a federal judge. God bless the federal judges, generally speaking. A federal judge said to Beauregard Sessions' demand that they stop working on these consent decrees, he said, we can't do that. I have a court hearing scheduled actually today, and we've got hundreds of witnesses. We've got a lot of stuff going on here, and we are moving ahead. So the federal judge said to the attorney general, no, we're moving ahead. If you needed a little good news. So, also, just following up on two stories we talked about yesterday. One was I told you about that Pepsi ad. The ad for Pepsi starring Kendall Jenner, and in which she disarms, essentially, police officers during a protest march by simply handing them a Pepsi. And then the world is fine. The outrage about this ad, the snarky, wondrous humor that popped up on Twitter with showing black protesters in the 50s and 60s being manhandled by these police, and somebody photoshops a Pepsi can into it saying, "But officer," as they're being clubbed to death, "here, a Pepsi," and that was one of the big reasons that it was such an outrage, that ad. The co-option of real struggle, real people's struggle, to a fashion model pretending, and then, never mind, I don't even want to go into it. Pepsi has apologized for an advertisement that borrowed imagery from the Black Lives Matter movement and that trivialize the widespread protests against the killings of black people by the police. Here is their corporate apology. Pepsi was trying to project a global message of unity, peace, and understanding. Clearly, we missed the mark, and we apologize. We did not intend to make light of any serious issue. We are pulling the content and halting any further rollout. It also apologized to Kendall Jenner. Oh, God. Oh, and by the way, in this, they mentioned that in 2015, Kendall was accused of cultural appropriation for wearing her hair in cornrows, which is, of course, a black style of hairdo. And this is where, I don't know, Celine, I don't want to put, Celine and I end up dividing, go different ways on stuff like this. This whole thing of cultural appropriation, and I'm not really sure where she stands on it, but has become so absurd to me that everything now is cultural appropriation. I mean, if I see a non-Jew eating a bagel, I should be outraged. Only Jews can eat bagels? Only blacks can wear cornrows? Only Italians can have, spaghetti? This entire country, the country I love, the one that I'm fearful of disappearing, is a study in cultural appropriation. It's that melting pot. It's what makes us so wondrous. That people from other cultures come here and their cultures enrich and infuse the greater culture. That's not cultural appropriation. That's quite the opposite. It's cultural acceptance. It's saying, oh man, I love that. I'm going to do it too. Well, why not? Cultural appropriation. I mean, granted. Okay, so I just want to say that's one of my... I never even heard the term until relatively recently, so this is something coming out of a more youthful perspective and youthful activism, and I just think it is ridiculous. As I said, I'm gonna go into the corner bagel place, which probably isn't even owned by Jews. That's why the bagels aren't very good. They aren't real. I'm gonna go in there and scream at them for stealing my culture. Next person who says schlep, I'm gonna scream. The next person who says, I don't know, whatever, all those Yiddish words that have passed into our... Some people use them, they don't even know that's what culture they came from. I mean, come on. Cultural appropriation is what made America great. Fuck. Dorothea writes, my father used to say, loose lips sink ships. That's correct. That was a phrase during World War II. Saying, watch what you say, because you might say something that'll allow our enemies to take down one of our ships. I mean, that was the metaphor, but it applied in a much larger context. Dorothea says, I watched Trump answer questions in the Rose Garden yesterday. Oh, my God, was that cringy. And I can't help but cringe. Yeah, there you are, Dorothy. Each time Trump opens his mouth. Oh, it's beyond belief. He literally is inarticulate. I mean, studies have been done about his verbal abilities, and he speaks at a 6th grade level. You wouldn't know the guy ever went to high school, let alone college. When he goes off script, Dorothea says, who knows what the man with a third grade sixth grade, actually, maturity will say. One day, this so-called president will say the wrong thing at the wrong time about the wrong country, and we're back with the nuclear option. Well, see, all the bad guys are testing him now. That's why Korea's firing off missiles, Assad, because of, Trump said the other day, Assad, he's here to stay. We ain't going to mess with him. He just said that like last week or something, and then Assad gasses all these people, and now Trump says, well, I'm going... He doesn't. He just reacts to things. There is no policy. There is no plan. We are in uncharted waters here. Josh writes, good morning, Lynn. Regarding the term nuclear option in Congress, I was wondering what a child who may overhear the news would think. Oh, yeah, that might scare him. When I was a kid in the 80s, I remember hearing about guerrilla warfare in Central America and was horrified. I really thought humans were making actual guerrillas fight wars. I thought the same thing, but not about Central America. At the time, it was, I guess it was the French in Vietnam in the 50s. And it was called a guerrilla war. And I thought, and because it was a jungle, I thought it was a jungle, it made sense that somehow guerrillas were being... You and I and about 1 million other kids, I think, had this same thought. He says, is changing the procedural rules in the legislature really worthy of such frightening nomenclature? Well, screw the kids. You survived, didn't you? Huh? You survived thinking guerrillas were fighting it out in Central America. They'll survive. Nomenclature. I want to thank you for the definite word of the day. That's an A+ word. Ray writes, Lynn, cultural appropriation is a load of horse shit. Thank you. Well, you said it more concisely than I. Should I be upset at non-Catholics eating at our fish fries? Yeah. So Lynn was saying, hey, all you non-Catholics, anybody, just get over there and do that fish fry.
Support your organization, though.
It was a volunteer fire department, right?
I can make an argument for that.
Okay, she's gonna argue the point here. Anyway, what is culture, says Ray, and how does one appropriate a culture, such a concept? I love the new digs in the show. Well, thank you. I'll love them, too, as soon as we get the kinks worked out. Milt writes, I'm a 50-year-old black man. Milton, I didn't know you were black. Oh, well, now I have to completely rethink my whole sense of you. Okay. I am a 50-year-old black man, and I cannot stand when any of my people yell cultural appropriation on Monday and then complain by Wednesday that our culture isn't recognized and respected. I hear you. I am very intimately involved with many of those who make that claim. And believe me, for most of them, if they were not kvetching... See, hey, kvetching. There's that Yiddish word. I'm saying you ain't a Jew, Milton. I got a feeling you ain't a Jew. I feel lessened that you said kvetch. Back to Milton. For most of them, if they weren't kvetching about having the sanctity of cornrows and hot sauce being sullied by insincere whites, they'd be complaining about the absence of black culture in the mass media. It's a joke and not a real issue. Milton! Totally with you. And we got Ron on the line. Hey, Ron. Hi.
Hi. Well, Mr. Trump put one matter to rest yesterday.
What was that?
He said Bill O'Reilly did nothing wrong.
You're right, and I was just about to get to that because that was something else we talked about yesterday. So he's a good person, said the president, and I don't think Bill did anything wrong. Wow. Can you imagine?
I wonder if Bill O'Reilly appreciates that the president said that.
Oh, sure he does. Of course he does. It'll be Exhibit A at his trial or something. But the President of the United States bringing that up when there's all these huge things, global crises all around him, that's where his head was, and that he inserted himself into something he does not know the truth of.
How does he know?
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. But, one sexual abuser, sexual abusers hang together. So that's what that's about. But it's, unbelievable.
Well, I mean, that's settled now. I mean, the president has spoken. The issue is at rest. I mean,
yes.
That's it.
That's it. All done. The president. Thank you, Donald. Glad you cleared that up. And thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. God. So, here's... I alluded to this, but this really pisses me off. President Trump said on Wednesday that Susan Rice, the former national security advisor, may have committed a crime by seeking to learn the identities of Trump associates swept up in surveillance of foreign officials. He gave no evidence to support his claim, and current and former intelligence officials from both Republican and Democratic administrations have said, hooey. Let me get the guy who was with Bush. Intelligence officials say it's a regular occurrence, completely legal for a national security advisor to request the identities of Americans who are mentioned in intelligence reports. Any request that she made would then have to be granted by the agency, and she can't just do it just by herself as well. So here's a guy who is a retired CIA official who served as senior director for intelligence at the National Security Council under George W. Bush. Quote, requests to learn the identity of a U.S. person, while not routine, are also not uncommon. Requesting that a name be revealed so that officials could make sense of an intelligence report is a normal part of the daily intelligence rhythm at the White House. And here you have our current idiot-in-chief saying, I think the Susan Rice thing is a massive story. I think it's a massive, massive story. All over the world. What? Oh, jeez. Cringe. Everybody cringe. Yeah. Everybody cringe. Now, what this is, though, is also his we now know the game he plays. This is about deflection. He and his people are in the crosshairs of the law. And he's wildly, look over there, and slandering the former president, slandering the former national security advisor for what? Made up stuff, made up in his own head. Sixth grade level. I think that Susan Rice thing is a massive story. I think it's a massive, massive story all over the world. It's a bigger story than you know. The Russia story, however, is a total hoax, said the president, like climate change. There has been absolutely nothing coming out of that. I mean, the guy is a blithering idiot. Oy. I can say oi. I can say oi. You cannot. Roger Powell. I'm sorry, Roger, I didn't mean to give your last name. I believe Trump and O'Reilly belong to the same support group. And the president is O'Reilly's sponsor. And another one of you, who I don't have an actual name for, Block, says, I am Oz, the great and powerful. Do not look at that man behind the curtain. So we're getting, there's a lot of Wizard of Oz, I am the great and powerful Oz. And there's a lot of other people often referencing, obviously, Lewis Carroll and Down the Rabbit Hole. And what's the other? Oh, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Those are the biggies. Who knew that fairy tales and children's literature could be so prescient about where we're ending up? Also says here, and I just want to, Bannon took a real hit, and it still says, don't count him out. He's a crafty survivor. It would be a mistake to underestimate him. And it turns out that other people confirmed, and I wondered when this would happen, that Trump was increasingly upset, angry actually, at how people were calling Bannon the president, and how there were all these cartoons out there with little Donnie sitting on Bannon's knee, and all that kind of stuff. He was annoyed, and I'm sure Bannon knew it would annoy him and was desperate not to have that happen, but it did, and that soured Trump on him as well. But here somebody else points out, there is a risk if Trump appears to be minimizing Bannon, because Bannon brings to him, he is a hero to the alt-right. He's a hero to all those Breitbart swallowing people. He's a hero to the anti-immigration base and the neo-fascists who constitute quite a few votes there for Trump, his base. So if he starts turning on Bannon, he could upset a lot of the little bit of people who are still thinking he's up to the job, as his ratings continue to just plummet. I want to see if we can get it below 30, because 30 is that cutoff of true believers. If it ever drops below 30, he's done. Okay, that's it. My God, look, I have all this stuff that I didn't even get to. That's the state of our world. It's an indicator that, man, we are in a mess. Okay, guys, stay dry, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.